Hello viewers, welcome to my channel. Today I have an interesting story for you. Don't forget like to and subscribe now. Enjoy the story.
The day my daughter-in-law-to-be asked for my beach house, she smiled the whole time, like she was asking me to pass the salt. My name is Ned Calloway. I'm 73 years old, I've buried a wife, raised a son mostly on my own after that, and I've owned a 3-bedroom cottage on Widow's Cove since 1979, back when the land was cheap and the tourists hadn't found us yet. That house isn't just wood and shingles to me. It's the last place I ever saw Margaret laugh so hard she had to sit down on the porch steps. It's where my son Danny learned to swim, where I taught him to gut a fish, where I scattered a small jar of his mother's ashes into the tide because that's what she asked for years before the end came. So when Vanessa, my son's fiancée, a sharp, polished woman who sells luxury real estate in the city and has never once asked me how my knees are doing, sat across from me at Sunday dinner and said, "Ned, we've been talking, and we think the beach house would make the perfect wedding gift." I set my fork down very slowly. "The beach house," I repeated. "It's just sitting there most of the year," she said, waving her hand like she was swatting a fly. "You barely use it anymore, and Danny and I were thinking we could really make it ours. Renovate the kitchen, maybe add a pool. It would mean so much to start our marriage somewhere with, history." History, she wanted the history. She just didn't want the history that was actually in it. I looked at my son. Danny wouldn't meet my eyes. He was staring at his plate like it held the answers to a test he hadn't studied for. That told me everything. This wasn't a joint decision. This was Vanessa's idea, and Danny was just hoping I'd say yes so he wouldn't have to be the one to disappoint her. I want to tell you I stayed calm. I did, mostly. 73 years teaches a man to sit with anger instead of spitting it out. But something in me went very quiet and very still, the way the ocean goes still right before a big set of waves rolls in. "That's a generous thing to want," I said. "Tell me, Vanessa, what year did I buy that house?" She blinked. "I don't know. Does it matter?" "It matters to me. What was my late wife's name?" Her mouth opened, closed. Danny finally looked up, alarmed. "Dad." "I'm asking a simple question," I said, keeping my voice even. "Vanessa, in the 18 months you've been coming around, have you ever asked me a single story about that house? Have you asked why there's a crooked nail in the porch railing that I've never fixed? Have you asked why the third stair creaks?" "Ned, I don't see what." "You don't see what it has to do with anything," I said, "because to you, it's square footage and a view, renovation potential, a blank canvas with history, the way a magazine uses the word to sell throw pillows." Danny's face had gone pale. "Dad, please, let's not do this at dinner." "When would you like me to do it, son? You've had 18 months to have this conversation with me yourself, and instead I find out my house is a wedding gift over the pot roast." The table went silent except for the hum of the refrigerator. Vanessa's cheeks had gone red, but not, I noticed, with embarrassment, with irritation, like I was the unreasonable one for not simply handing over 4 decades of my life because she'd decided it fit her vision board. "I just think," she said carefully, like she was choosing her words for a difficult client, "that it's a house that could really use someone in it full-time, somebody who'll actually enjoy it." There it was, the knife wrapped in a compliment. Somebody who'll actually enjoy it. As if I didn't drive down there every June to sit on that porch with a thermos of coffee and talk to my dead wife about the state of the world. As if the reason I don't spend all year there isn't that the ocean air makes my arthritis worse, and I have doctors here and a life here, built slow and careful after Margaret passed, brick by brick, the way you rebuild anything you're not ready to lose entirely. I could have exploded. God knows I wanted to. Instead, I did something that surprised even me. I smiled. "All right," I said, "let's talk about the beach house." Vanessa's whole posture changed. Like a saleswoman sensing a closing deal, she leaned forward. Danny looked like he might be sick. "I'll make you a deal," I said. "I'll sign that house over to you both, as a wedding gift, free and clear, exactly like you want." "Dad," Danny started. "Let me finish." I held up a hand. "There are 3 conditions." Vanessa's smile flickered but held. Okay. First, you spend one full week there with me before the wedding, not a weekend getaway with mimosas. A full week, starting this Friday, no renovation contractors, no realtors, no phone calls about potential. Just you, me, and the house as it is. That's fine, she said, though I could tell she thought it was strange. Second, I continued, you let me tell you the story of every room, not fast, not skimmed, the whole thing, however long it takes. She glanced at Danny, who was watching me now with an expression I couldn't quite read. Sure, Ned, I'd actually love that. I doubted that very much, but I let it go. Third, I said, and this was the one that mattered, at the end of the week, you tell me honestly whether you still want it as a wedding gift, and whatever you decide, that's final, no renegotiating, no coming back to it in a year. Vanessa nodded eagerly, already, I could tell, mentally repainting my kitchen. Deal. That Friday, the three of us drove down together in near silence. Danny kept glancing at me in the rearview mirror like he expected me to detonate at any moment. I just watched the pines give way to dunes, the way they always had, the way they had when I drove this same road with Margaret in the passenger seat, her bare feet up on the dash, singing along to the radio badly and without shame. The house looked the way it always looked in August, salt-bleached, a little tired, utterly mine. I started that first evening on the porch, in the two rocking chairs Margaret and I bought at a yard sale in 1981 for $8, still there, still creaking. This chair, I said, patting the arm of the one beside me, your future husband's mother sat in every night for 11 years while she was pregnant, worried sick, and then not pregnant anymore, worried sick in a whole different way. This porch is where she told me she was dying, right here, October. The leaves hadn't even started turning yet, but she already knew. Vanessa's expression shifted, just slightly, the polish cracked her hair. I took her through the kitchen next, the one she wanted to gut. I showed her the burn mark on the counter from the pot roast Margaret ruined on our 10th anniversary, laughing so hard about it that we ended up ordering pizza and dancing in the kitchen instead. I showed her the pencil marks on the doorframe charting Danny's height. A faded scroll of dates going back to when he was 4 years old and missing his 2 front teeth. I showed her the crooked porch nail. I'd hit my thumb hammering it in the week after the funeral, and I never fixed it because some strange part of me needed one thing in that house to stay imperfect, unfinished, the way grief never really finishes either. Every night a new room, every night a new story, and every night I watched something in Vanessa soften, degree by degree, the way sand smooths under enough tide. By Wednesday she wasn't asking about square footage anymore. She was asking about Margaret, what she was like, what made her laugh, whether Danny had her eyes. By Thursday, she'd stopped taking notes on her phone about renovation potential and started just sitting on the beach with Danny in the evenings, quiet, watching the water the way you're supposed to. On the last night, we sat together on that porch, the three of us, and I asked her the question I'd been circling all week. So, do you still want the house? Vanessa was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was different than it had been at that dinner table, smaller, more honest. No, she said, I don't think I do, not like this, not as a gift with your whole life still in it. She looked out at the water. I think I wanted the idea of the house, the Instagram version. I didn't understand what I was actually asking you to hand over. And now I think I'd rather earn a place in it, she said. If that's even possible, I'd rather be someone who gets invited back, who adds a story of her own, instead of someone who erases the ones already here. Danny reached over and took her hand, and for the first time since this whole business started, I saw the two of them look at each other the way people should look at each other before they promise to spend their lives together. I never did sign that house over, not that year, but the following June I invited them both down for the season, not to renovate, not to inherit, just to be. Vanessa learned to shuck oysters on that porch. She helped me repaint the shutters, careful to leave the crooked nail exactly where it was. 2 summers later, she asked if she could put up a small photo of her own mother, who'd passed when Vanessa was young, in the hallway beside Margaret's. I said yes. That house is still mine. Someday it won't be. Someday it'll belong to Danny and maybe to Vanessa and maybe, if I'm lucky enough to see it, to grandchildren who'll ask why there's a crooked nail on the porch that nobody's ever bothered to fix. And when they ask, somebody will tell them. That was never really about the house at all. It was about whether somebody was willing to sit still long enough to listen to what it held before deciding they had the right to make it theirs.